Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Play Branson, where you get to know Branson entertainers better. And today I have Leroy New on the show. First time he's ever been on the show. Leroy has a tribute to Marty Robbins and other classic country stars. It's a show at the Gettysburg Theater, and he's been performing in Branson for a very, very long time. And so we're looking forward to talking to Leroy. And so you'll want to hang tight for that interview in just a moment. Kind of some unique trivia that we have today when we're talking about country music. Merle Haggard, and Leroy does some Merle Haggard, I believe. Merle Haggard was born in a boxcar. His father had converted it into a home for his family. Marty Robbins taught himself how to play guitar while serving in the U.S. Navy during World War II. This one has nothing to do with country, but in 2016, Mozart sold more CDs than Beyonce. That's some pretty interesting trivia.
Wow.
And an astronaut released an album with all songs recorded in space. In 2015, a Canadian astronaut named Chris Hadfield released his first album, which was entirely recorded while he was in orbit. So here's some trivia that's probably quite useless to you. I can't even talk today. But some interesting trivia nonetheless. It's Christmas in Branson. If you haven't been here, you've got to come. There's lots of great Christmas things happening in Branson. And folks, we're going to talk to Leroy New in just a minute, so hang tight.
There are so many things to do in Branson. You need help planning and booking all your fun. You need iBranson.com. You can find everything Branson has to offer from your computer, tablet, or cell phone. You can even buy tickets online or talk to one of their friendly Branson travel specialists. There's no sales pitches, no delivery fees, no service fees, and no waiting. It's fast and easy. Find your fun at iBranson.com. Do it all online or call 877-ENTERTAIN. That's 877-368-3782. iBranson.com.
Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Play Branson, where you get to know Branson's entertainers better. And today I have Leroy New. Leroy, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you had me come over.
So this is the first time you've been on the show.
It is.
And you have a show in town called A Tribute to Marty Robbins and other classic stars,
Yes.
Other classic stars. There we go.
Yeah.
And so you've been in Branson here a long time. But before we talk about your show, we got to take people way back.
All right.
And give them your history and how you got to Branson, Missouri.
It's going to take a little while, isn't it?
We got a while.
Well, whereabouts where you want to start?
You can start as far back as you want to go.
Well, I was born in Muncie, Indiana, but I was raised due to a separation of parents by my grandparents in southeastern Kentucky. My grandma and grandpa raised me from the time I was 3 till I was about 15. So I got to experience a different lifestyle that I probably wouldn't have unless I had been raised by my grandparents. Willie New and Parthena New, that was her names. They'd already raised 7 kids. I was the first grandson to come live with them. And therefore, they put me in school at 7 years old, something like that. I went to a one-room school in Griffin, Kentucky. Teacher taught 1 through 8 grades. And I stayed with them for about 15 years. I hunted and fished and did all the things that a boy will do back in the Cumberland Mountains. And then eventually my mother, who had carried a she felt guilty because my dad and her had separated when I was 3 and my brother Larry was 2. So I eventually went back to stay with her in Selma, Indiana. When I was about 15, my brother and I were reunited. We went to high school together. She had a heck of a time getting me into school because I'd been out of school for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And she talked to the principal and he said, well, we'll try him out into the 9th grade. If it doesn't work out, we'll have to move him back to the 8th grade. So it worked out. Went through high school together, my brother and I, and he went on to college. He was a basketball coach in Indiana, Larry New, and he did real well in his life. I graduated from high school and got a job at a local place, steel mill, worked there 30 years.
Wow.
Raised 3 kids, 2 girls, and a son.
Now, is there any music going on at this point in time?
I started playing guitar. I'll back up a little bit. when I was about 6 years old, because my grandpa played banjo, he got me a little Roy Rogers guitar. So I started playing just little things, and then I got a real guitar. And I listened to battery-operated radio and taught myself to play guitar. And I kept playing the guitar, and after I graduated from high school, me and a friend of mine who was in my class, a drummer, we started our first band called the Cavaliers.
The Cavaliers.
Had a couple of trumpet players. We played Tijuana brass. And then from that band, and I'm working at the time. I'm playing music on weekends. From that time on, I played in that band for a number of years. We played Elks, Mooses, places like that, you know. And I got married when I was 19. My wife was 16.
Pretty young.
Yes, and we just celebrated our 55th year.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
But anyway, as time went on, I went into a country band called, let me back up a little bit. On the name of the band, my first band was the Top Brass, the horns player. My second band was the Cavaliers, which was country, ran by John Herbert. And I stayed with that band for a long time. I always had a dream of making it in country music, like everybody else does, you know. And so I went down to Nashville, and they told me in Nashville, they said, give us $100,000, we'll make a star out of you.
Wow.
Well, I didn't fall.
That's a lot of money.
And I didn't have the money either.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just kept on playing my music. And then finally, to make a long story short, a lady that was a real good friend of mine, she was kind of like, she was a very educated lady, and she told me, she said, Leroy, you have the talent to really do something. Why don't you go to Branson, Missouri? And I said, I've never heard of Branson, Missouri.
You've never heard of Branson, Missouri?
She said, well, the Marsh family, which built the Gettysburg Theater out here, were real good friends of hers, and Andrew Marsh and the family was going to build the Gettysburg Theater.
Right.
So,
now, for people that don't know what that Gettysburg Theater, that is now the Bloom Church, correct?
Right.
Yeah, so if you know where Bloom Church is, or where they're fixing to open the Bloom Church, that was
Right.
original Gettysburg Theater.
well, anyway, I made an album, a gospel album at Andrew Marsh's studio in Muncie, Indiana, and they saw my guitar playing talents, and they liked what I did. And so they was going to, Roger, the father, wrote a play, Gettysburg, and he was going to showcase it at this new theater which they built. Big family. There's doctors and lawyers. The main contributor to the money was a dermatologist, one of the Marsh sons, and they put the money together. But however, they didn't know anything about the Branson market. They didn't promote the show, so they did about, I don't know, several weeks of the Gettysburg play, and they had a lot of people working for them. You may have heard of them. And they offered me a morning show. So it turned out to be, I did an afternoon show there for a while. They went bankrupt, the Marsh family did. And a long story there, but they brought Ray Price in to recoup some of their losses. I opened for Ray Price for a while at the Gettysburg Theater. I never will forget the first night. 800 and some people, and I had about 4 or 5 pages of monologue memorized, and I'm supposed to come out and do a pre-show for Ray Price. And I come out with my banjo and my guitar, and I said, howdy, folks, and it all left me. And this is VIP night. Mel Tillis is there, Roy Clark, they're out there. And I'm thinking to myself, and I've always been kind of a little backward, you know, being raised in where I was raised. If I could drop through this stage and make it back across 248 to where I live in that little trailer, I'd be a happy man. But one little lady on the front row, I heard her say, we won't bite. Come on. So I got through it and did the pre-show, played the banjo, told them stories about their surround sound, all this, you know. Well, after I did this, I was taking a break before Ray Price's show started. And this guy from Texas come up to him and he said, son, you did a great job. And I'm thinking he's making fun of me, you know. I said, what do you mean? That was terrible. Why, he said, Mel Tillis ain't got a thing on you. All that stuttering and jammering I did. But anyway, I got a job at the same year. I started working at Shepherd of the Hills, a daytime entertainment. And I played music out there. And then the second year I was out there, I got in the play. Keith Thurman had invited me to come down and sing in the play, you know, where they have the intermission. So I was out there for 10 years. And along the way, Mr. Paul Bluto from IMAX came out there with his wife, and they heard me play, and they invited me to do fill-in dates at the IMAX. While Gold Ring Express, they were going on the road.
Okay.
I did fill-in dates, and in August, I got 80 and 90 people in there, and I did a one-man show. At one time, doing the Shepherd of the Hills daytime entertainment, the show at night, and they let me off at 1:30 to go do this show, or 15 after 1. I was doing 7 days a week of music.
That's a lot of music.
That's a lot of music.
That's a lot of music. We're going to stop right here, and we'll be back in just a moment to hear more from Leroy News, so stay tuned.
There are so many things to do in Branson. You need help planning and booking all your fun. You need iBranson.com. You can find everything Branson has to offer from your computer, tablet, or cell phone. You can even buy tickets online or talk to one of their friendly Branson travel specialists. There's no sales pitches, no delivery fees, no service fees, and no waiting. It's fast and easy. Find your fun at iBranson.com. Do it all online or call 877-ENTERTAIN. That's 877-368-3782. iBranson.com.
Hey folks, we're back, and it's Leroy New. And Leroy, you were talking about Paul Bluto had just asked you to come over and fill in some dates.
Right.
So kind of what happened from there?
Well, the first fill-in dates, I did a one-man show. Then the next year, I was invited. Gold Wing didn't come back. They went on the road, and so they invited me to have my own show. And so I put a band of 2 other guys together. We had a trio, and we did that show till about 2009, and my numbers had kind of dropped off, and so Mr. Bluto suggested I do a tribute to someone, and I told him, I said, I don't like tribute shows. I just like to be in myself. He said, well, think about it. And a few minutes later, this guy walked up to him and he said, somebody in this town needs to do a tribute to Marty Robbins. So I thought, Lord, thank you. Maybe you want me to do something here. So
He works in mysterious ways, doesn't
does.
he?
So anyway, I put a show together of Marty Robbins, and we've carried it through for several years. In 2017, my wife's health had kind of deteriorated a little bit, and I thought, you know what, I think I'm just going to retire. I've been 30 years at a steel mill, 10 years at Shepherd of the Hills, 12 years at the IMAX, time to take a break. And I wanted to go to Ireland because my grandpa on my mom's side is from Ireland. So anyway, I retired, and we went to Ireland in 2018. We was over there about 20 days, and I just had a feeling about Ireland. I don't know whether folks out there would ever get this feeling. Being my grandpa was from Ireland, McGuigan. While I was over, I loved it. I just had a feeling like I was coming home. You know, I don't know whether you know what I'm talking about or not, but it was really neat. I enjoyed it. I come on back, and then as the years went on, as that year went on, 2018, I booked myself in different venues across the country, and I just really didn't like the traveling. I'm driving hotels for one thing and another. And I live out here at Kirbyville. I got 16 acres out there. It's beautiful country. I got just built a new house. Got my old house at a rental place, you know. And I got a mule.
You got a mule.
Yeah. So anyway, as you know, I'm a country boy. But
I
anyway,
can tell.
Back to my story. I put my name in a few places, and lo and behold, the Duttons called me. I seen on my phone Sheila. I didn't know who Sheila was. So, because I talked to Tim and I asked him if there was any chance of me doing a show over there, and he said, slim to none. So I forgot that. And then Sheila called me. So we got together with Sheila and Dean, my wife and I, and they offered me a position, and we signed a contract. And this is my first year, 2019, at the Dutton Theater. And believe it or not, I mean, I love the IMAX. I've never burned any bridges any place I've been. But they are just super people, and I've got more promotion through them than I've ever had in my life.
So if somebody's never seen you, they don't know anything about the show,
Right.
Tell people what can they expect from going to your show at the Dutton Theater?
I could recommend my show. I produced it like Marty had his show. We only have a bass player and a piano player and me. I played a lot of Merle Travis, Chet Atkins picking. And not bragging on myself, I've won Guitar Player of the Year here in town and tribute artist. If you come to my show, you got storytelling. I'm a storyteller. I tell stories about being raised in Kentucky. People love the stories because a lot of them didn't. A lot of them went to a one-room school, and so it's been really successful. My numbers are growing. So if you come to my show, you get a little bit of bluegrass. You get the Marty songs, White Sport Coat, Singing the Blues, Story of My Life. Second half of our show, we do the gunfighter ballads, Big Iron, El Paso City. A lot of good three-part harmonies. Merle Travis, Chet Atkins picking. I think it's just it's a good show that people love.
So it's a good like country
Right.
show.
A lot of it is music you don't hear anymore.
Right.
You know?
Right. So, so you've done that. You're doing this. Are you going to do it in 2020?
Yeah. Everything looks good for next year. And of course, one thing I always say about my show and my life, you put God in your life, put Him first. He'll put you first.
There you go. Now you've written some books as well.
Yeah, I have my first book I wrote about 4 years ago. It's called Man from Two Worlds, and it tells my life autobiography story from the time I was a little boy, being raised by my grandparents, into my married life, my music life, in Branson, Missouri. And my second book is for kids, old kids, young kids, whatever. Man, it's called Have I Told You the Story About? Yeah. So that's my two books.
So now, do you do something on Sunday as well?
Well, at the IMAX I did till I retired. I had a gospel service, Good News Gospel, every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. I'm also an ordained minister. And this Sunday, once a month, I might say, I go over there, and my piano player and his wife has taken the service over.
Okay.
So I've retired from that, but I do go over about once, the first of the month, and I minister over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I thought you had done that. Now, I know a lot of times you go around to the hotels and into the breakfast area, so somebody might see you in the breakfast room doing a little picking.
I take my guitar in. In fact, I go to some of the places that your family own, and that's my way of marketing. I don't sit behind the computer or anything. I just get out, and I found it's very successful. When people are planning their day, you walk in, hand them a brochure if they want one, and invite them to my show.
Yeah. And so you're at the Dutton Theater. Tell people what time you're there and what days.
Well, through October, which we're finishing up, tomorrow I'll be there at 10 o'clock in the morning, but through October it's been Tuesday at 2, Wednesdays at 10, Thursdays at 2, and Fridays at 10. But mainly, probably next year, I'll be doing most of my shows Tuesday at 2, 2 o'clock Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Okay, so an afternoon show
Yeah.
in 2020.
And there'll be some 10s along the way. They'll just have to check a record.
Yeah, right. So either 10 or 2 is the times, and so check the rack cards. You can also go to iBranson and check the schedule there as well. And really, you're going to tell stories. You're going to play some good country music,
Right.
and
I have two talented guys with me. I might tell you that Kenny, my piano player, has been with me for a long time. He's an original member of the Marshall Tucker Band. He produced a song One Day at a Time for Christy Lane and played piano on it. My bass player is a young guy. I met him at Shepherd of the Hills. Eric Green. He plays bass and fiddle. We worked out a lot of good three-part harmonies. It's really good.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you back in the theater industry. And I'm guessing when you first started out working at a steel mill, you never ever thought you'd be here in Branson with your own show.
No idea where the Lord is going to take me to.
Yeah. And so, you know, folks, we've heard this story over time and time again, how people get to Branson. And it's always interesting that a lot of times it's somebody recommending to an entertainer, hey, you need to go perform in Branson, which is kind of what happened here.
That's what happened to me, yeah.
And by someone just making that recommendation, it really changed your whole life.
It did. It really did.
Well, Leroy, it's been great having you on
Thank
the
you.
show. And folks, we'll be back in just a minute, so hang tight. Hey folks, welcome back to Play Branson. We're wrapping the show up today. Hopefully you enjoyed that interview with Leroy New. He's just a nice guy. Man, I think if you like that country music or Marty Robbins, that type of thing, this is a show you'll want to go see. Very authentic, down to earth, lots of great storytelling and lots of great country music over at the Dutton Theater. Our next episode, I am interviewing Ashley White. She's an up-and-coming talent in Branson, Missouri, and so we look forward to interviewing her. Things that are coming up here in Branson, November 20th, Neil McCoy is going to be at the Mansion Theater. We also have Branson's Christmas Wonderland now through December 21st over at King's Castle Theater. And lots of Christmas light drive-thrus that you can go through. You can go to Lights of Joy, just north of the Sight and Sound Theater. Shepherd of the Hills has a Christmas light drive-thru you can go to as well. If you haven't been out to Silver Dollar City yet, they have a new 8-story Christmas tree. I think I was told it was a $1.5 million Christmas tree. That's on top of their $6.5 million Christmas lights. One of the most magical places you can go to at Christmas time. So if you haven't been to Branson, come this November or December. It's a great time to bring your family. Great shopping, great food, great entertainment. And if you need help planning your Branson vacation, you can go to ibranson.com. Those folks can help you out there. Or you can call them at 877-ENTERTAIN. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with Ashley White.